The Varnak Empire was a powerful group in the galaxy. They controlled many planets and stars. They believed they were stronger than anyone else. One day, they decided to take action near the edge of their territory. There was a small space station there, filled with humans who worked and lived quietly. The Varnak wanted to send a message. They thought it would be easy to take some humans and scare the rest. Without warning, the Varnak ships arrived at the space station. Their ships were dark and sharp like knives in space. They moved quickly and did not ask for permission. They did not send any warnings. The humans on the station did not expect the attack. The Varnak soldiers came aboard strong and silent. They moved through the station and took 10 humans away. They did not say a word. There was no trial, no questions, no names called. The people were taken in silence. The families of those humans were shocked and scared. They did not understand why their loved ones were taken. The station lost 10 of its own, and no one knew what happened to them. The Varnak left the station without a sound. The space around the station felt cold and empty. The missing humans were never seen again. At first, the galaxy did not know what had happened. The Varnak believed their actions would go unnoticed. They thought the humans would be too afraid or too weak to respond. But the galaxy was watching. Earth was listening. On Earth, people heard the news slowly. The space station sent signals after the Varnak ships had gone, telling the story of the missing humans. The news spread from city to city. People saw pictures of the 10 missing humans. Each person had a story, a family, friends who cared deeply. The Varnak had made a mistake. They believed the humans were small and weak, not worth fighting back. But the humans were different now. They had grown stronger. They had learned many things. They had allies in many places. The humans had changed. In many homes on Earth, people watched the news with heavy hearts. Mothers held their children close. Fathers looked at the stars and wondered if the missing humans were safe. Friends sent messages of hope. They promised to remember those who were taken. Across the solar system, on other planets and moons, people did not forget either. On Mars, on the Moon, and on space stations far from Earth, the missing humans were remembered. People began to ask questions. Who had taken them? Why? What would happen next? The Varnak Empire did not see this growing anger. They did not understand that they had awakened something, a quiet force, a force that was ready to protect the humans, a force that would not forget. The 10 missing humans became a symbol. Their names and faces spread across screens and hollows. They were no longer just people. They became a cause, a reason for others to stand up, to act. The space station near the Varnak border continued its work, but it was never the same. The halls felt emptier. The gardens lost some of their color. The people there lived with the memory of what had happened. Far away, secret groups on Earth began to plan. They did not want war. They did not want fighting. but they wanted justice. They wanted the Varnak to know that humans were not easy to break. They were not easy to forget. The story of the 10 taken humans spread quietly at first, then louder. It reached places no one expected. People who had once stayed silent began to speak. Leaders who had kept calm now prepared for action. The Varnak Empire thought the humans would be scared. They thought the humans would give up. But the humans were listening. They were watching. They were ready. This was the beginning, a moment when one cruel act changed many things, when 10 humans were taken in silence, but their story spoke loudly across the stars. The galaxy was no longer quiet. Earth was no longer small. The Varnak had made a choice, and the humans were ready to answer. The 10 humans taken by the Varnak were not just random people. Each one was important to someone who cared very much about them. They had families, friends, and people who loved them deeply. Their lives were full of stories, hopes, and dreams. They were not just faces on a screen. They were people who mattered. One of them was Maya. Maya was the daughter of Commander Talon, a strong and smart leader who helped protect many planets. Commander Talon was known for his careful plans and brave heart. He had trained many pilots and soldiers to defend Earth and its allies. Maya was kind and curious. She loved to learn about stars and space machines. She wanted to help make peace in the galaxy someday. Another was Gyro. Gyro was a young man who worked as a scientist on the space station. He studied plants and how they could grow in space. Gyro dreamed of helping people live on new worlds by finding better ways to grow food. His sister, Lyra, was a skilled hacker who helped protect Earth's computer systems. Lyra had spent years building strong walls to keep enemies out of their networks. When she heard about her brother, her heart broke. She knew she had to find a way to help. Then there was Anya, a teacher who worked with children on the station. She was gentle and patient. Anya loved helping kids learn about the universe. She believed education was the key to a better future. Her students looked up to her because she cared for them like they were her own family. Anya had a close friend on Earth, a woman named Sira, who worked as a diplomat. Sira tried to bring peace between planets by talking and finding common ground. The two women shared many hopes for a calm future. Another person taken was Max, a young man who was training to become a pilot. Max was fast and clever. He wanted to fly ships and explore new places. Max's best friend, Kira, was a captain of a small fleet. She was strong and determined. When Max disappeared, Kira felt a deep pain inside. She promised herself that she would do everything to bring him back. There was also Tomas, a father of 2 small children. Tomas worked as a mechanic. He fixed machines and made sure everything ran smoothly on the station. His family lived in a small home filled with laughter and love. Tomas's wife, Elena, was worried and scared. She held their children close every night, hoping Tomas would come home soon. One of the 10 was Layla, a young woman who was studying to be a doctor. Layla wanted to help people feel better and heal from sickness. Her grandfather had been a famous doctor on Earth who had saved many lives. Layla dreamed of doing the same. Her classmates and teachers looked up to her because she was kind and smart. Another was Samir, who worked as an engineer. He was a problem solver who loved building new machines. Samir wanted to design ships that could travel faster and safer. His best friend, Hana, was an artist who painted pictures of faraway worlds. They had promised to explore space together someday. When Samir was taken, Hana felt lost and sad. Then there was Imani, a young woman who loved music. She played the violin and sang songs that made people smile. Imani's family had moved from Earth to the station when she was small. She dreamed of sharing her music with the whole galaxy. Her brother, Kofi, was a soldier who protected the station. He had promised to keep her safe. One of the 10 was Ravi, a student who was fascinated by robots. He spent hours building small machines that could help people with hard tasks. Ravi's teacher, Ms. Chen, believed in him and encouraged him every day. When Ravi disappeared, the whole school felt the loss. Finally, there was Ilara, a woman who worked in the station's communications room. She helped send messages and keep people connected. Ilara had a warm smile and was known for helping others feel better when they were sad. Her friends said she had a heart as big as the sky. Each of these 10 people had someone who cared deeply. They were loved by family, friends, and communities. Their disappearance was not just a number or a secret. It was a loss felt by many. People all over Earth and beyond knew their names. They saw their faces and remembered their stories. The Varnak did not think about this. They thought the humans were all the same. That taking 10 people would be easy and no one would fight back. But the humans were not strangers. They were connected. They were part of families and teams. They were part of a growing, strong community. When the news spread, the people who cared about the 10 began to come together. Commander Talon did not stop working. He began to gather information quietly. He reached out to others who had lost someone. Scientists, teachers, pilots, families, and friends began to talk in secret. They shared stories and plans. Lyra used her skills to search through many computer systems. She looked for clues about where her brother might be. She found strange signals and hidden messages. She shared what she found with a small group of trusted people. Sira, the diplomat, spoke to leaders from other planets. She asked for help and support. She told them the Varnak had crossed a line. Taking innocent people was wrong and would not be forgotten. Kira, the pilot, prepared her fleet quietly. She trained her ships to fly faster and to hide better. She wanted to be ready for whatever might come. Elena, Tomas's wife, started a group to help families who were waiting. They shared news, hopes, and prayers. They held meetings to stay strong and support one another. The missing humans became more than just 10 people. They became a symbol of courage and hope. Their stories inspired others to be brave, to stand up, to never forget. This was a time of sadness but also of strength. The humans showed that even in the darkest moments, they cared for one another. They showed that they would protect their own, that they would fight back, not with guns at first, but with their hearts and minds. The galaxy was watching. Earth was listening. The Varnak had made a grave mistake. They had hurt the wrong people. The people they took were loved, remembered, and not forgotten. The humans who cared about the 10 began to plan quietly. They would find a way to bring them back. They would make sure the Varnak knew that humans would not be broken by fear or silence. The Varnak Empire did not yet understand what was coming. They thought they had power, but the humans had something stronger. They had hope, they had love, and they had the will to protect those they cared for. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. The story of the 10 missing humans spread like a light in the darkness. It brought together people from Earth and beyond. It gave them a reason to stand tall. The Varnak had taken 10 humans, but they had awakened the strength of many. And soon the humans would show the galaxy that no one should ever underestimate them. After the Varnak took the 10 humans, something began to change. The people on Earth and other planets did not forget. They did not just sit and wait. They started to act, not with loud noises or big battles at first, but with quiet steps. Small moves that showed they were not weak. They were ready to fight back. At first, no one noticed the change. The Varnak Empire was confident. They thought the humans were scared and would stay quiet. They did not expect any answer. But humans are clever. They have learned how to be patient. They know how to wait for the right moment. The first sign came when a trade ship disappeared. This ship was not big or strong. It was a small ship that carried goods between planets. One day it left a station, but it never arrived. No distress signal was sent. The ship was gone without a trace. People wondered what had happened. Some thought it was an accident. Some thought the ship had mechanical problems. But the truth was different. The ship had been taken by humans who wanted to send a message. They did not want to hurt the Varnak with weapons. They wanted to show that humans were not helpless. Then one of the Varnak's listening stations stopped working. These stations were important for the Varnak. They helped keep track of ships and messages in space. When the station went silent, the Varnak were confused. They sent crews to check, but no one could find the problem. The station was still there, but it did not respond. No alarms went off. No battle started, but the Varnak began to feel uneasy. Meanwhile, on Earth and other planets, people were preparing. Scientists and engineers worked to find ways to protect their systems. Hackers who once only helped build software began to use their skills for defense. They found ways to block Varnak signals and make their own messages harder to trace. Many people joined groups that worked quietly to keep the humans safe. They shared information in secret. They watched the Varnak's movements and studied their patterns. The humans were not ready to fight openly. They did not want war yet, but they were preparing. The Varnak laughed when they heard about the missing ship and the silent station. They thought it was a joke. They believed humans were still too small and weak to do anything serious. But the humans kept moving quietly. More signs appeared. Supply ships carrying fuel and food arrived late or not at all. Some parts for Varnak ships stopped being delivered. Their factories ran out of important materials. The Varnak tried to fix these problems quickly. But every time they repaired one thing, another problem appeared. No one saw soldiers firing guns or ships fighting in space. The humans were careful. They did not want to cause a war they could not win. Instead, they used their knowledge to control systems. They changed codes. They broke small pieces of the Varnak's network one at a time. Each small action was like a drop of water that slowly fills a cup. Alone, each drop seemed small, but together the drops could fill a lake. The Varnak started to worry. Their leaders asked what was happening. Their generals looked for the humans, but humans stayed hidden. They did not fight face to face. They fought with silence, with secrets, and with patience. The missing humans became a symbol for the fighters. The people who wanted to protect Earth and its allies felt stronger. They were not alone. They had a reason to keep going. They had a reason to be brave. On Mars, pilots flew missions to find clues about the missing people. Scientists sent robots to search for signs. Families shared stories about their lost loved ones. They supported each other and never forgot. In the dark corners of the galaxy, humans prepared ships that could move quietly. They learned to hide their signals. They practiced flying through dangerous areas without being seen. They worked together like never before. Even though no big battles had started, the humans' actions were changing the balance. The Varnak were no longer in control of everything. Their outposts and stations were becoming weak. Supplies were slowing down. The humans were taking small steps toward a bigger plan. The Varnak's confidence began to crack. They no longer laughed. They looked at the reports and saw a pattern. The problems were not random. They were planned. Someone was working against them. Someone was ready. But the humans did not want to be cruel. They wanted to protect their own. They wanted to send a clear message: stop now or lose more. Their message was simple but strong. They were not weak. They would fight back. And they would win. The galaxy watched this quiet fight. Other planets began to take notice. They wondered what would happen next. Some began to side with Earth. Others stayed silent, afraid to choose. But Earth did not stop. Earth did not give up. The small acts of courage, the quiet steps of revenge, were just the beginning. The humans were ready for what was coming. They were ready to protect their own. The story of the 10 missing humans had become the story of many. It was a story of hope, courage, and quiet strength. The Varnak had started a fight they could not see, a fight they could not stop. And the humans were only getting started. The Varnak leaders had always been sure of their power. For many years they ruled their empire with strength. Their ships moved fast, their weapons were strong, and their control over space was wide. But now something was changing. The small actions by the humans were causing a new feeling, worry. At first, the Varnak did not pay much attention to the missing trade ship or the silent station. They believed these were accidents, mistakes that would fix themselves. Their generals thought the humans were scared, too scared to fight back. They smiled and told each other, "This is nothing." But the problems kept coming. More and more of their supply lines were broken. Ships carrying fuel, parts, and food were delayed or lost. Their communication systems had strange glitches. Important stations stopped sending signals. The Varnak tried to fix each problem as it came, but new problems appeared faster than they could repair. Their leaders began to meet more often. They gathered in big rooms filled with screens and maps showing parts of the galaxy. They looked for patterns in the problems, hopping to find the cause. They did not want to admit that the humans were behind it. At first, the reports seemed like random mistakes. Maybe space storms damaged some ships. Maybe there were technical errors. But as the days passed, the pattern became clear. The problems were not accidents. They were planned. Someone was acting with purpose. One commander, a sharp and serious woman named Jala, studied the reports carefully. She was in charge of the defense systems near the border where the humans lived. Jala noticed that every time her forces tried to repair something, another system would fail. It was like the humans were always one step ahead. Jala reported her concerns to the High Council of the Varnak Empire. She told them that the humans were not scared. They were not weak. They were organizing. They were fighting back in ways the Varnak had not seen before. The council members did not want to believe her at first. They had never thought humans could be a threat. But as more reports came in, even the most powerful leaders had to listen. The Varnak began to feel uneasy. They watched their ships and stations more closely. They sent spies to gather information. They tried to find the humans who were behind the attacks, but the humans stayed hidden. They used clever tricks to hide their movements and signals. The humans were patient. They knew that rushing into battle would be dangerous. They used their knowledge of computers and machines to break the Varnak systems quietly. They made the enemy's ships lose power. They stopped supplies from moving. They made sure the Varnak could not control their own territory well. The Varnak leaders realized that this was not a simple problem. It was a fight for control, and the humans were fighting with a new kind of power. They were not using big weapons or armies. They were using their minds, their skills, and their patience. This worried the Varnak more than any battle. They could see that their empire was starting to crack. Their ships were not as safe. Their outposts were vulnerable. Their power was not as strong as before. Jala worked day and night to find a way to stop the humans. She ordered her forces to increase security. She told her commanders to watch for anything unusual. But the humans were careful. They stayed hidden in the shadows. The Varnak began to fear that if they did not act soon, the humans would become stronger. They worried that their empire might lose more than just supplies and stations. They feared losing respect in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the humans on Earth and other planets were preparing quietly. They did not want to start a war they could not win, but they wanted to protect their own people. They wanted to show the Varnak that humans would not be afraid or broken. The humans shared information with their allies. They planned their moves carefully. They made sure their defenses were strong. They tested their ships and systems again and again. The Varnak watched these moves and worried. They could feel the humans becoming braver, stronger, smarter. The more the Varnak tried to control the situation, the more problems they faced. It was like trying to hold water in their hands. The harder they squeezed, the more slipped away. The Varnak knew they had to make a choice. They could try to fight openly and risk a big war, or they could find another way. But they were not sure what that way was. As the worry grew, so did the humans' hope. They saw the Varnak's fear. They felt their own strength. They knew the fight was far from over. The galaxy waited to see what would happen next. The Varnak Empire, once confident and strong, was now looking over its shoulder. The humans, once seen as weak, were rising quietly but surely. This was a turning point, a moment when the small acts of revenge became a real threat, a moment when the enemy's smile began to fade. The humans were not just waiting, they were ready, ready to protect their own, ready to fight for their future. And the Varnak had no choice but to watch and worry. Back on Earth, things were quiet on the outside. The streets bustled with people going to work, children playing in parks, and the sun shining over cities and towns. No one saw what was happening behind closed doors. No flags waved and no speeches were made. But deep inside important buildings, people met in secret. They gathered in rooms with thick walls and no windows. They spoke in low voices, sharing ideas and plans. These meetings were not for fun or celebration. They were for serious work. Leaders, scientists, commanders, and many others came together. They had lost loved ones to the Varnak Empire's cruel actions. They had lost friends and family members from the space station near the edge of the galaxy. But they did not come to cry or complain. They came to plan. The people in those secret rooms were tired of waiting. They had seen what the Varnak had done. They had watched the slow attacks on supply ships and stations. They had seen the Varnak grow worried. And now they were ready to do more. They knew they needed a strong plan to protect Earth and all the humans in space. There were no cameras in the rooms, no reporters or news, only people who cared deeply about their home and their families. They knew the importance of their work. They knew that if the Varnak found out, the plan might fail. The leaders in the meeting spoke about more than just revenge. They talked about safety, peace, and justice. They wanted to stop the Varnak from hurting anyone else. They wanted to protect the future of Earth and all the places humans lived. One of the most important things they talked about was trust. They needed to trust each other to keep secrets and to work together. The Varnak were strong, but the humans had something the Varnak did not have. They had hope, courage, and a desire to protect. The scientists showed new technology they had been working on quietly for years. These machines could help protect ships from being found. They could block attacks on systems. They could help humans communicate in secret so the Varnak could not listen. The commanders shared news from space. They told stories of brave pilots who flew in dangerous places. They told about engineers who worked day and night to fix ships and make them better. They told about families who waited patiently for news of their loved ones. Each person in the room felt the weight of the moment. They knew the fight was not easy. They knew the Varnak were powerful, but they also knew the humans had grown strong. They had learned from the past. They were ready. The plan they made was careful. It was not a plan to start a war, but a plan to protect. It was a plan to stop the Varnak from hurting